Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yasoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana. Jamuna Chira Vanachari. Jamuna Chira Vanachari. Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish. Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Brahmacharya Satarata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Charger His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Brahmacharya Satarata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisaranta Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananti Kori Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. New Dwarka Jan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadisha Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gauda Parimananda. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 23, text number 22. Idrig. Oh, sorry. Okay, ready? Idrig griham tat pasyantim nati pritena cetasa sarva bhutasaya vigya pravochat kardama swayam idrigriham tat pasyantim naiti pritena cetasa Sarvabhutasaya Vigya Pravochat Kardama Svayam Idrigriham Tat Pasyantim Nati Pritena Chaitasa Sarvabhutasaya Vigya Pravochat Kardama Svayam Idrigrinam Tat Pasyantim Naiti Pritena Chaitasa Sarvabhutasaya Vigya Pravochat Kardama Svayam. Pritena Chaitasa Sarvabhutasaya Vigya Pravochat Kardama Svayam Idrigriham Tapasyantim Mataji's. Synonyms: Idrik, such; Griham, house; Tat, that; Pasyantim, looking at; Na ati pritena, not much pleased; Chaitasa, with the heart; Sarvabhuta, of everyone; Ashaya Abhigya, understanding the heart; Pravochat, he addressed; Kardama, Svayam, personally. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. When he saw Devahuti looking at the gigantic opulent palace with a displeased heart, Kardama Muni could understand her feelings because he could study the heart of anyone. Thus he personally addressed his wife as follows. Okay. Purport. Devahuti had spent a long time in the hermitage, not taking much care of her body. She was covered with dirt, and her clothing was not very nice. Kardama Muni was surprised that he could produce such a palace, And similarly, his wife, Devahuti, was also astonished. How could she live in that opulent palace? Kardama Muni could understand her astonishment, and thus he spoke as follows. Om Gyanati Mirandashagananjana Shalaka Chaksham Chanjana Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Manchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivata Paritana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, very short purport today, but there was something that I thought was important in the purport in terms of speaking about Srimad Bhagavatam. In the last verse, it was also noted that Kardama Muni, when he produced this beautiful city, this floating city, he was actually really astonished about how he could possibly do that. It was something that he didn't even realize he had the potency to actually accomplish or do. So here again, we're seeing or hearing that this astonishment is there again in Devahuti. And she couldn't see herself living in such a palatial building, considering her situation, what she looked like. Very emaciated, very thin, raggedy looking, hair unkept. So she couldn't see herself being in such a wonderful palace in that condition of life. So, in the next verse, that's tomorrow, it answers that question by what Kardama Muni has told her to do, what instruction he gave her. But I kind of wanted to stay here a little bit about this idea of someone as great as Kardama Muni being able to accomplish what he accomplished in terms of his meditation, and from that he developed this yogic power and strength, and from that he was capable of building this most astonishing, or producing, I should say, this astonishing city, a floating city. And he himself was bewildered by it. So I thought maybe something like this should be recognized, because I was thinking more on the level of what Prabhupada accomplished in Krishna consciousness. Because reading the Bhagavatam and reading and hearing what Kardama Muni was able to accomplish is sometimes very bewildering, even to devotees. How is that possible? We have to kind of question that a little bit. Really? Is that actually happen? And how did it happen? And why did it happen? So these questions are there. So I thought maybe we'd be a little bit more speaking and thinking about Prabhupada's accomplishments, what Srila Prabhupada was able to accomplish in this life, and how amazing that was in itself. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham magaten nattarapmana svaravam bhajata yuvam sameyutatamo mata. Krishna says that of all yogis, there's so many yogis, but of all yogis who have great faith in Krishna, who are always abiding in Krishna and thinking of Krishna and rendering transcendental loving service unto Krishna, and they're most intimately united with Krishna by that activity through yoga. And then Krishna says that this is the highest of all. This is what it really means to be a yogi. This is the highest of it all. And then Krishna says, that's my opinion. So this is Krishna's opinion in terms of what is a yogi. And we see that Kardama Muni, he was meditating for millions of years, I guess. Isn't that millions? I think it was millions of years. And his wife very sincerely served him very nicely. And both of them were reaping the benefits of that activity of a palace, and not only that, but also a great son in Kapila. So their austerities were very beneficial. And even Srila Prabhupada, he also performed so many austerities, maybe not that many years, or maybe not as stringent. But because in that verse it says that if all yogis, one who has great faith, who's always, who abides in Krishna, and who thinks of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada had that power. He was so focused that he could do that. And he became very dear to Krishna. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's stated that unless one is specifically empowered by Krishna, he cannot infuse Krishna consciousness in people. It's not possible. You have to have this empowerment. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that if you're able to empower Krishna in the hearts of living entities, that's first class yogi, first class devotee. And Bhaktivinoda also even said the greatest of Vaishnavas can be understood by seeing the number of non-devotees that they've turned into a devotee. And we see the power of Narada Muni. Narada Muni exhibited that power, that potency, and he traveled throughout the universe in the spiritual world, material world, and his purpose was to make more and more devotees, to convert non-devotees into devotees. And he was very famous for that activity. He was so powerful that he could travel anywhere he desired. That was his power. Because he was also very much a yogi, a transcendental yogi who had performed loving devotional service for the pleasure of Krishna. And so he acquired this particular power. So we see right now in Krishna consciousness, for us, it's actually very difficult for us to even convince a very qualified candidate to become a devotee. You know, being here in the temple for as long as we've been, it's very difficult to come in and a qualified person comes through the door and you try to infuse Krishna consciousness in their heart. You can see how difficult it is. It's almost like an impossible feat. And even when someone comes in and they have a desire to be Krishna conscious, we're always kind of on pins and needles. Is that person really going to be a devotee? And how hard that is to infuse Krishna in their heart, to convince them that they should surrender and become a devotee and live Krishna conscious lifestyle. Very difficult, if not practically impossible. So we can't really understand the extraordinary task that Srila Prabhupada had in terms of his preaching Krishna consciousness. You know, when he came to the US, I think in the very beginning, there were so many yogis that were in New York. And they would always encourage Prabhupada to go upstate, upper New York. Don't stay down over here in the Bowery where these low-class individuals are that are really, they promote the four principles of lust, anger, greed, illicit sex, intoxication, meeting. We actually promoted that. We are good promoters for that activity in life. And so Srila Prabhupada came and he tried to take those individuals such as myself and any devotee that was at that time a devotee or wanted to be a devotee, and he infused Krishna consciousness in them. What a miracle that was in terms of being able to accomplish that. And Srila Prabhupada did this because of his particular potency, because he was specifically empowered by Krishna, by his activities. And we see that as in those days as devotees, we didn't even know how to properly, receive a sadhu. We didn't even know, I didn't even know what a sadhu was. I just didn't, If I thought of anybody, I probably thought about the Maharishi, only because the Beatles were hanging out with him. But I had no idea what it meant for a sadhu. That was something that was just completely out of our realm. And we were actually disqualified recipients of spiritual life. But Prabhupada gradually managed to train us how to become a devotee by his potency. And he gave us Krishna consciousness. And so we see that this training or giving Krishna consciousness to someone, it takes a lot of purity, a lot of power, and a lot of commitment. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives us so many stories and pastimes of that happening, of how one's converted, like Magrari the hunter by Narada Muni. But it was by the potency of Narada Muni. And here we see Kardama, what he's able to actually accomplish by that potency. So that potency is very important. And we see that Prabhupada gave us the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now the Srimad Bhagavatam is very important in terms of purifying the conditioned soul. The Srimad Bhagavatam states that the Bhagavatam is meant to bring about a revolution in the impious life of misdirected civilization. That's the purpose of the Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada took that Bhagavatam, translated in English, and he taught us the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was so intelligent. He developed a formula, a process. So that process, we live it every single day. Even in the material world, there's a process for developing riches. If you want to become a very wealthy, very rich person, and you have that idea and that enthusiasm, there's so many of those kind of so-called gurus out there. You follow the steps. These are the steps that you have to follow, and you can make that particular amount of money, or you can develop a certain kind of power. So the genius of Srila Prabhupada was such that he was able to take Krishna consciousness to the most disqualified individuals by a process. He developed a process. And this process is what we're living every single day. If we actually really want to become a pure devotee of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada gave us the process. Sometimes people want to become very rich, very wealthy and powerful, and they can go with the process for a certain point. And then at another point, they become discouraged because they're not following the process. So I thought that what Prabhupada gave us here was brilliant. It was just the most amazing process to become a devotee. And it's really simple in reality. And Prabhupada empowered Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to actually do this. What's that? Oh, did I say it wrong? Sorry. Yeah, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered, thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada on this process. So I think that's very important because you can see what happens. In the beginning, no one was interested. Very few people were qualified. Everybody was just thinking about sense gratification. And the monumental task of convincing people that they should, or regardless who you were, Prabhupada wasn't discriminating. Whoever came, he was able to instill within the heart of those individuals to take up the science of Krishna consciousness. Then he developed the strategy, formed the strategy. Prabhupada, he bought this particular building. He instituted the deity worship. He taught us Guru Puja, taught us chanting Hare Krishna. He told us about the four Rigta principles. He told us here in the temple, Srimad Bhagavatam class, Mangal Artik. All these things were processes for purification. If one wants to actually go back home, back to Godhead, if one really has a desire, and he made it so available, which was really incredible. Just like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he made it so available, the chanting of the holy name. And just by chanting the holy name, so many things came. And we see that Srila Prabhupada, he was able to convert tens of thousands of people into Krishna consciousness. And even though 50 years later, still, this process works. It's non-different. It's the same thing. Whatever was in the beginning, so many people joined and became devotees, and they continued the process. And you can see that by the process, very unqualified devotees became great Vaishnavas, great devotees. We even have those devotees in our society today. They became very great devotees, although in the beginning they were so disqualified. So my point being is that Kardama Muni was able to do something really wonderful in terms of a big building and palatial building, and of course he had Kapila as his son. But my point is that Srila Prabhupada set the groundwork for the prediction of the golden age for the next 10,000 years. He set the groundwork for that to exist, to actually happen, and to actually go forward. And we as devotees, we should try to understand the potency that Prabhupada had and really dedicate ourselves to his process of Krishna consciousness, because that'll help us become pure devotees. And it's so simple. I was just thinking when I was reading this, I was thinking how simple it is, how complicated we are, and how complicated we make things. When in reality, it's a very simple process, very doable by anyone, no qualification needed. Just like in the beginning, no one knew about Krishna consciousness, no one knew a sadhu, no one knew about chanting. But Srila Prabhupada, by his potency, he gave us that opportunity. So in the Chaitanya Mangala, it says that in this age, in this particular time period of life, that there would be a Senapati, like a great general would appear. And Srila Prabhupada was that general that came, Senapati. I thought that was a great word, Senapati. It has a lot of potency to it. And Prabhupada was like a great general for the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he came here and inspired so many of us to take up this Krishna consciousness. And that is a miracle in reality. We can't even imagine the extraordinary energy that Prabhupada had to push out in order to convince someone to be a devotee. And again, I'm saying, like when someone comes through our door today, how much energy do we have, or potency we have to really make that individual a devotee? It's like if we have a bhakta program, or if we have someone that joins the women's ashram, how difficult is it to make that person a devotee? Is it easy? Yeah, sometimes. But you can just see how much difficulty there is in that. And Srila Prabhupada accomplished that on his own. And then whatever you see here, whatever you may see here in this temple, it was all by Srila Prabhupada's potency. And what kind of a great personality must he have been that he was able to do that at such a ripe age of life? It was like he came in the 70s, when he was 70 years old. And in 11 years accomplished whatever you see here. And from this point on, there's something like 500 ISKCON centers around the world. There's tens of thousands of devotees. And that shows the potency of Srila Prabhupada's program. And it doesn't matter who you are. And so we as devotees, we should try not to complicate. And I'm sure that Prabhupada was even astonished himself how he was able to accomplish this. I've heard so many times that Prabhupada would read his own books, and when he would read them, he would just smile and just say, how was this possible? I didn't write this. Krishna wrote it. Because Srila Prabhupada's purports, they make the difference in this revolutionary spirit of the Srimad Bhagavatam. His purports were the ones that convinced many of us that we should stay within Krishna consciousness and execute Krishna consciousness. His purports are extremely potent and important for the execution of devotional service. Sometimes there's these controversies that we have about translations and things of that nature within our society. But in my opinion, the most important part of the Srimad Bhagavatam are the purports. That's the most important thing to me. And these purports is what convinced me to be a devotee and stay a devotee. When I read these purports, it makes me become enthusiastic, and it helps me, it gives me strength. It's described that the books, like Prabhupada's books, they're like a tirtha. A tirtha is like, it gives, that's what a tirtha, it gives you something. Prabhupada's books give us everything. It's like a tirtha. It gives us the energy, the strength, the resilience to execute Krishna conscious life. And then, of course, there's the Dham also. And we take shelter of the Dham. So Prabhupada did both those things. He gave us shelter by his books, and he gave us shelter by the Dham. This is the Dham, the holy Dham, New Dwarka Dham. And we take shelter here. If we take shelter of the Dham, then we can actually become purified. And that's what this whole process is about. And I was thinking how miraculous that is, and that it'll continue on that way, because Srila Prabhupada was an empowered agent for Lord Chaitanya's movement, and he created this whole beautiful situation for us to execute Krishna consciousness. And we should become very absorbed in executing it in this fashion. We should push on. We shouldn't deviate. We shouldn't deviate from Srila Prabhupada's instructions. We should do exactly what he said. Come to Mangalarti, chant your japa, go to Guru Puja, hear Srimad Bhagavatam class, and perform devotional service. If we just do that and execute it with devotion and sincerity, one can actually become a pure devotee of the Lord. It's reality, just by that process. So that process is there given to Prabhupada by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna. Because Prabhupada was such a yogi. He had great faith in Krishna. He always abided by Krishna's will. He always thought of Krishna, and he rendered transcendental loving service to Krishna. And Krishna says that such a devotee is very dear to him. And that's his opinion. So we as devotees, we should be very helpful in spreading Srila Prabhupada's movement. And Prabhupada's writings, they were so powerful and so meaningful even to an ordinary layman, and for that matter even a scholar. Both could appreciate Srila Prabhupada's purports, and both could become Krishna conscious, regardless of who you are. And that was the potency from his writings, especially the purports, as we're saying. In Krishna consciousness, we learn a lot of things. There's also some very important verses. One important verse is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And as soon as we hear that verse, everybody goes to sleep. But then when we hear Mahaprashadam Govinde, boom, everybody wakes up. So we know how to put people to sleep, and we know how to wake them up. Even Prabhupada taught us that. So the Krishna conscious movement has a lot. So I just thought I'd speak about that today. It kind of inspired me reading this particular verse, that how it was that I came to this movement and what was the power of Srila Prabhupada. And I consider myself to be a very low-born individual. And that's not just trying to be humble. That was reality. The things that I enjoyed or I thought was happiness in life was so completely different. And for Prabhupada to change me, it wasn't like I felt I was a miserable person in the material world. I was actually satisfied. I was having a lot of fun. And all of a sudden I met a devotee and they took away that fun. They took it away. And then I was stranded. I had nowhere to go except to Krishna. Because once you hear this potency of philosophy, you read Prabhupada's books, where can you go? What are you going to be happy about? What can you possibly be happy about after you come in contact with Krishna consciousness? It's chanting, hearing and chanting, serving. That's happiness. So we have nowhere else to go. If you told me to leave right now, I wouldn't. I would be like a stranded child in the street. I wouldn't know where to go, what to do. There would be nothing that I'd feel fit for in this material world. That's the potency of Prabhupada's preaching. And if we sincerely take it and we execute it, we can go back to Godhead. And that is a miracle. And that was what Srila Prabhupada was able to accomplish, which was probably a little bit more than Kardama Muni accomplished. I mean, he had Devahuti, he had a palace, and yes, of course, he had Kapila. But in terms of what else he did, I don't know. But we know what Srila Prabhupada did. You can just see it, experience it daily. And it's continuing. And so Krishna used Srila Prabhupada to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Okay. I just want to read one thing about Vrindavan Das Thakur. Today's his appearance or disappearance. So very quickly, I'll just read something. Vrindavan Das Thakur. This is Gaudiya history. And it's in her childhood, Narayani Devi, niece of Srivas Pandit, became mad with love of God upon receiving the mercy of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Later she gave birth to Vrindavan Das, who was the last disciple of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. On his guru's order, he wrote Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. It is practically a law among Vaishnava writers like Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Krishna Das Kaviraj, and Vrindavan Das Thakur to always keep themselves in the background. They never mention anything about their family, lineage, or personal history. The authors of the best written and most relishable verses collected in Sri Rupa Goswami's Padyavali remain unknown. During the 16th century, entire books of exceptional transcendental prose and poetry were penned by prideless Vaishnavas, preferring to remain anonymous, feeling utmost humility. Such Vaishnava writers expressed themselves only in relation to their preceptors. Krishnadas Kaviraj glorifies his gurus at the end of each chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pad Yare Asa Chaitanya Charitamrita Kehe Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in the footsteps. Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami shows his supreme homage and gratitude by honoring Vrindavan Das Thakur with the appellation Vyas. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Anchalila 2082, Vrindavan Das Thakur, quote, Vrindavan Das Thakur is Lord Nityananda's favorite devotee, and therefore he is the original Vyasadeva in describing the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, end of quote. As Srila Vyasadeva told Sri Krishna's pastimes in Bhagavatam and other Puranas, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur described Chaitanya Leela in Chaitanya Bhagavat. The humble heart of Krishna Das Kaviraj pours out more praises of Vrindavan Das Thakur, quote, hearing Chaitanya Bhagavat destroys all misfortune. By reading Chaitanya Bhagavat, one will understand the glories of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and he will attain the highest perfection of knowledge, pure love of Krishna. Such a wonderful book could not be written by a human being. It seems that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself had spoken it through the mouth of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. I offer millions of respectful obeisances to his lotus feet, to the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur, by compiling such valuable book as he delivered everyone from the cycle of birth and death. Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.